Hello. I'm sure you all heard by now that Shin Megami Tensei V is getting a re-release under the name Shin Megami Tensei V Vengeance. Some of you might already be hyped for it by now, since it also got some new trailers, new teasers of the new demons that are added into the game, a teaser of them focusing and fleshing out the characters, and the fact that it is going to be released on all major platforms, making it free from the Switch exclusive jail. However, if you've been on the internet long enough, you'd most likely find the opposite of hype around the internet, but mostly concerned about not just SMT5 but also all future ATLUS releases, because it's at the point where ATLUS will always re-release their games on a later date. So for those who don't know, ATLUS has a working trend of releasing their games where they release an original game, but then they will continue working on improving that game and adding new additional stuff to that game, and then release them as a definitive version a few years after the original for full price. This has been a thing from ATLUS ever since, but one of the earliest notable ones was probably the original Persona 3, where they re-released Persona 3 as Persona 3 Fast, with multiple additions, but most notably The Answer or Episode Aegis. Then, most major ATLUS releases after that will follow this trend. On the top of my head, SMT3 Nocturne has a lot of re-releases, Persona 4 with Golden, Persona 5 with Royal, and finally SMT5 with Vengeance. So fans of ATLUS games are rightfully concerned about many future projects of ATLUS, because by the trend, there will most possibly be more re-releases of Metaphor ReFantasio, for example, or even Persona 6. Of course, there are many nuances of why this is bad for multiple sides, but the main problem that was echoed has been that the price accumulated is too expensive, and that first impressions of story bits will be tainted either by spoilers on the internet or by already playing the original first. There is a video that I recommend watching before this by one of my favorite streamers on this platform, Crystal. That video will cover up almost all of the internet's opinion on ATLUS re-releases, and is a fantastic discussion video on the matter. So instead of echoing what she does, I wanna try to make sense why ATLUS do re-releases in the first place. Of course, it's pretty obvious that the end goal of this is money, but there has to be something else that pushes them to do re-releases, because there are other options for monetization, like DLC for example, which I will also cover later on. So I want to try to break down a lot of the additions into the re-releases that I'm familiar with to see if they are justified or not. If you're not up to hearing me rambling about the changes to re-releases, there's a timestamp on the screen right now to skip to either the summary of why I think the re-releases are justified, and where I started stating out my opinion on the whole matter. So to start, I am not very familiar with SMT, so I want to cover Persona 4 Golden and Persona 5 Royal instead. Persona 4 originally released for the PS2 back in 2008. Later on in 2012, Persona 4 Golden was released on the PS Vita with generally more improvements and contents, and will be the definitive version that will be released on Steam in 2020 and all major platforms in 2023. Here I list most of the major differences between the original versus Golden. Persona 4 Golden opens with you arriving by train to Inaba. In Golden, you will meet with Marie, a mysterious new character added as the flagship change for Golden. Alongside Marie is a new social link, the skill card system that was missing from the original, and an entire new dungeon based on her. There's also a new ending added if you manage to finish the dungeon. Adachi, while an existing character before, is also given a social link, making that 2 new social links in Golden. There is also another new ending connected to Adachi added in Golden. Scooters. You are given a scooter in Golden that unlocks new places, while not in the TV world. This gives more options for activities like going to the beach for a new fishing spot or watch movies with friends in a nearby city, while in the original it's completely absent. Scooters will also add up party members' outing that focuses on improving that party member's persona in combat. A new semester that was originally unplayable, adding more time to the gameplay for more social events and new environment since it is the winter. In addition to that, there are also new events like the Halloween event and the ski trip. There are also new cutscenes in general. Originally, you can't go outside at night, with the reasoning that Dojima will be mad even if Dojima isn't home. Golden changes that so you can go out at night while Dojima isn't home, and is an additional time to do some activities like fishing or talking to social links to rack up points for a level up. Gardening is also added at night as a new source of valuable consumables. Party members get rebalanced, most notably like GA getting a weakness. Skills for party members will be added to other sources as well. Every 2 levels of each party member's social link grants them a skill, and party member outing with the scooter lets you either learn new skills for them or relearn skills that you removed before. Party members have a third awakening, further powering them up. Party members have tag team attacks that can trigger after an all-out attack, equipable costume system for all party members. Shuffle time is heavily reworked to prevent random punishment and instead reworked to better reward you. Boss battles are reworked to better suit their theming. New persona are also added, with the added ability to finally choose to inherit skills instead of having it random. Enhanced graphic to better suit the new screen aspect ratio of the Vita. New music added, and the TV listing that I'm not very familiar with that I can't say anything about it. There has to be some more changes from original to Golden, but I think these are sufficient enough. Persona 5 Royal was released for PlayStation 4 in Japan in 2019 and worldwide in 2020. That was 3 years after the original, being 2016 in Japan and 2017 worldwide. Later on, released on all major platforms in 2022. Here are the major differences between Persona 5 and Persona 5 Royal. Persona 5 Royal also had a flagship new female character, this time named Yoshizawa. She serves as somewhat of an introduction to the new major content that was added to Royal, such as new confidant with her and some new events sprinkled into the game. She is also a party member. Takuto Maruki is also a new character and is also a confidant. He is also tied to new events and is also tied to the new content and time period at the end of the game. A third semester, time is extended beyond the time limit of the original Persona 5, and the new semester acts as the final arc of the game, with new palace and boss battles. 2 new endings were added as a branching point at the end of this final arc. Kichijoji, a new explorable area with new activities, such as inviting party members to the jazz club, playing darts or billiards, meditating in the temple, and many more. Akachi's confidant is completely overhauled into a normal confidant system rather than a passively progressing confidant as the main story progresses. The Thief's Den basically acts as the game's glorified extras menu like in older games. The Phantom Thieves have several specific collaborative attacks called Showtime. It is a cinematic attack that triggers when a specific condition is met and is learned after a few points in the main story. Existing palaces have been reworked in several ways, including the layouts, puzzles, and the boss fight itself have been reworked. All palaces were added wheel seats as well. It acts as a source of accessories that gives access to active skills for party members equipping it. Joker now has a grappling hook to add a new dimension in palace exploration. Mementos is also overhauled with a new stamp and flower system, which are linked to Josei, a new character roaming in Mementos. Stamps are for better rewards in Mementos, and flowers are for purchasing consumables from Josei. New personas are also added into the game, plus new DLC personas like Raoul. Personas have passive traits that improves a persona's performance in a specific way. The Velvet Room has an alert system to heavily improve the fusion, strengthen, or itemize process, but is also prone to fail even more. There's a new special battle mode in the Velvet Room for additional challenge battles, new unstable shadows that explode upon death, adding new layers of gameplay. Ammo is now restocked between battles instead of between palace visits. The Baton Pass mechanic is readily available for everyone and not tied to confidant ranks. Morgana finally shuts up about going to bed early most of the time. Confidant perks are mostly reworked with Ryuji being heavily broken. Enhanced graphic for being free from the PS3, new music, new character portraits, and so much more that I think it's trivial to even mention at this point. So, what is the point of me mentioning all of these changes? Well, to start, the changes here are not just some trivial updates or bug fixes. There are a lot of new things that came out with the re-releases that it quote-unquote can be considered a new game from the perspective of game development. Now, that being said, there's also the argument where they can also update the pre-existing original game and bundle the new contents as DLC, which is what Persona 3 Reload will eventually do with the answer. However, the way I see it, it is a different case for the answer as DLC because the answer is a separate content to the journey, or in this broader case, the original. Whereas for Golden and Royal, they have to update the existing game for most of the content updates, so they will definitely go for the re-release route. Furthermore, let's be real here, the scale of the answer itself isn't as big as the other re-releases. Judging by the length alone, the answer is around 20 to 40 hours long, which is way less than Golden and Royal since they covered basically the entirety of the game. Take for example the flagship ATLUS Rerelease girls, Marie and Yoshizawa. As much as I know people will heavily vote against these characters, the way these characters are getting added are that they are integrated into the game, which for those things to be just some free update to the game might actually break the game both in technicality and the content message itself. Or even take Adachi and Akechi's social link overall in their respective game. I don't think they can change that much even up to the new endings with just updates without the whole game changing as a whole. So what I'm trying to say is that I understand that Atlus will resort to the re-release tactic because it is such a huge undertaking on the game development side to just be a quote-unquote free update with a side of DLC. But this is just me speculating at the end of the day. I'm just some guy on the internet who loves playing Atlus games. I have neither experience in game development nor even the sense of how it was going in the studio itself. But this is tied to my opinion to this whole debacle of the Atlus re-releases and even the much disliked DLC practice for Persona 3 Reload. I love Atlus games so much that I personally do not care how much they try to do some marketing tactics, as long as the game is high quality. There's also a lot of drama recently about microtransactions in other games as well, not just Persona 3 Reload or any Atlus games. I'm pretty sure you remember the whole Dragon's Dogma 2 thing with their microtransactions. To be honest, I disagree with a lot of opinions that echoed from that, like, oh, the DLCs are optional, you don't have to buy it because you can obtain them in-game. Yeah, but there's a lot more problems to that case, cause Dragon's Dogma 2 runs like a crippled dog missing 3 of their legs. I want developers to deliver with the game first, so that it feels like the price and microtransactions became secondary, which is why I'm glad to see that Atlus games did not suffer from that so far. Persona 3 Reload runs pretty well on most machines. Persona 5 Royal, despite being a PS4 game, runs surprisingly well on my old dying laptop. Furthermore, the games are complete as a package. You can play from start to end with an amazing experience. If I had fun, that makes me want to give back to either the developers or the community. That's why I made my how to build a persona videos. Those games warrants my money and my time, and I love them so much. Persona 3 Reload's DLC practice is kinda iffy. The fact that the answer is bundled within the season pass and not sold separately, and also that the deluxe edition did not give the season pass is certainly scummy, but to me, it is still getting a pass because the game itself is fantastic to boot. That being said though, I still feel bad for other players who are less fortunate than I am, particularly those who can't buy these games. I am glad that I am fortunate enough that I can feel that I do not care about the pricing of the games and microtransactions. However, I still can't shake the feeling that I have to disagree on the re-release tactic purely because my friends can't buy those games as careless as I did. But this video has been a very roundabout way of me trying to say that, hey, you should think of this for yourself. There are a lot of nuances in this problem, including your background or the fact that you enjoy their games or not. If you like Atlus games with their other games and are interested in their new games, by all means, buy them as long as you have the sufficient funds. Re-releases and DLCs also falls into the same category. If you're worried about the future re-releases, you can always wait while getting some info on the internet. There's also the option to get it on Game Pass as well in the case of Persona 3 Reload, so there's always a way to solve these problems. By all means, vote with your wallet, because what matters to me in the end is that I am happy with their games, and I really hope you guys are happy too. Thanks for watching everyone, and by the way, please feel free to dislike this video if you disagree with something. Feel free to leave a criticism in the comments or start some discussions as well with your opinion. I feel like covering this in some way, shape or form because this has been bothering me for months, because I feel very conflicted in the end. On one hand, Atlus is still a great studio that makes great games. But on the other hand, what's the point when they use it for squeezing money out of their customers that I don't get to play the game? So far, I think it hasn't gone too far yet, so at least I'm happy with this condition. So yeah, and again, thank you so much for watching.